And good morning. Well, you're flying the very unfriendly skies with Tironan, and today we have an aircraft I just never have really caught into. This is the J7W1 multirole fighter. This thing was actually built, and which is kind of different because a lot of the aircraft that you see on both the Japanese and German sides just didn't. Just weren't. They were paper studies in the German cases, and one of them was supposedly delivered by a U-boat to Japan, and nobody's found the uh, records to it since. So, bottom line is weird. This one actually was built. It was test flown twice, and it was just the beginning of its evaluation phase, which meant they were doing very ginger, polite, nice studies on its aircraft behavior, and otherwise didn't have too much to do with it. So we don't really know much about the aircraft, and that's unfortunate. Okay, so one of the limitations and part of the reason I don't like the aircraft is its complete lack of uh, altitude capability. And even more rattling to my nerves is the fact that this was in fact designed as nothing less than a B-29 interceptor. You know, the ones that flew routinely at 29,000 feet. And I see I have all sorts I have these aircraft in front of me. There's a reason why I didn't move a whole lot. And the other one is the extremely archy guns. Nor are they particularly fast to make you love it even more. Uh, it's not an air. Now this guy actually thinks he's got better firepower than me, which he does not. Whether I hit him enough to damage him, I don't know. Yeah, apparently we tore him up pretty good. And so, for a roll, this thing is really hurting. They try to shove it into the multi-roll, and it doesn't do that job very well. For one thing, it's not fast enough to do that job very well. Oh, I guess I did tear them up pretty good. I'd like nothing more than return the favor. But they've got them. So you have an interceptor that can intercept. You've got to put in the multi-roll capability, and it's not particularly fast. Or it doesn't carry much of a bomb load is what I'm really trying to say. And on top of which, it's got some really bad archy cannons on it, which I find nothing less than amazing. Now, you have 880 points of damage coming out of the front end of this thing, which is to its massive advantage there. So it really comes in as a bomber interceptor, which is what it was exactly intended to be. And that being said, it takes just seconds to tear out an aircraft to pieces with this thing. And it does that pretty well. But it's not a particularly maneuverable aircraft either, so it doesn't really fit in the turn and burn very well. And its bomb load is a pair of 500-pound bombs. So if I sound like I'm a little frustrated with the aircraft, I am. That's That's why I don't play it a whole lot. Now there are areas and maps that it excels in. Anytime you can get in the bottom of the bowl, like the Colorado map or the Albion map or just any of those, that's quite a different subject. Doesn't do bad in close combat, since it will tear just about anything to pieces very quickly. And I have an aircraft coming in very quickly here, and I'm trying to find him. There he is. Now, you can't do a whole lot with ME-262s except let them outfly them, and you can do that. That was overdue. Wanted to thank that boy more than I can say for messing with me earlier. Now, he's not doing anything wrong, mind you. He's just doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing. But finding a good place for this aircraft has been difficult for me. It's not turning enough to be a good turn and burn fighter. It's not exactly what you'd want in a multi-role. If you want multi-role done right, seeing it done right, look what they did with the F-84. I mean, you talk about absolutely nailing an aircraft that can do the job. And it actually does the role of both bomber and fighter very well. I mean, they absolutely got that one right. It's the best multi-role in the game, in my opinion.
There's a heavy storm here. Unable to proceed. Return into base. Do you copy?
Now, don't get me wrong. This thing does have one hell of a punch. 880 DPS coming out of the end of this thing. By any stretch of the imagination, it hurts when it hits. Single strikes will take out most of a fighter and sometimes kill it just outright. Three or four strikes on even an attack bomber will take it down very quickly. But when you're routinely having to deal with aircraft at high altitude, boy, is this not the aircraft to be in. Now it takes I have no, just stalled out. Luckily this guy doesn't seem like he's much more in control than I am. And low and slow is not where you want to find yourself in front of those guns. Woo! It's just not a place to be at. Okay, so let's get down here, and this looks a little more promising to me. Because for one thing, they're low. And they're focused in on another aircraft. I'm surprised I did as well as I did on this one, to be honest. This is just not the map for this aircraft. I got on one of the Alpine maps and did 14 kills in it. Which kind of puts paid to all my bitching about the aircraft. You can certainly use it effectively. It's just This is one I would urge World of Warplanes to go take a look at and sharpen your pencil and figure out how to get more out of the aircraft. One thing I would definitely take a look at is its altitude capability. The thing couldn't get to 29,000 feet. There was no reason for Japan to be spending its last resources trying to get this aircraft operational. It was not unusual for a B-29 to come in at 33,000 feet. And that's what this thing had to fight. And they weren't your standard machine guns, guys. Excuse me, I need a drink of something here to clear my throat a little bit. These things were all linked into a fire control system, literally fire control system. And you could group 2, 3, 4 turrets all together and point them at a single aircraft. That's on the B-29 I'm talking about. So when you built an aircraft such as this, it had to do things that just, had to be able to take a lot of incoming firepower. It had to be able to deal with high altitudes. It had to deal with the fact that a B-29 flew over its target at over 300 miles an hour. Over 300 miles an hour, routinely. So it had to be a fairly quick aircraft. And so when you start looking at all this, it's not necessarily, this aircraft is not reflective of what it was built to do. Now, there is no real data on this aircraft. It's conjectural because they hadn't begun to ring it out. They only had 2 prototypes. They'd only flown twice. And then Japan surrendered. So while you may moan the aircraft, I mean, there's a lot of good things to be said about Japan surrendering. And one of them was that for the poor Japanese public, it was a blessing in innumerable levels. Okay. That being said, my thoughts on the aircraft. It's struggling for a roll here. If you put, it's already slow. So you put bombs on the thing. And let's take a look at the airspeed. 285 is just cruise speed. 466 is your maximum speed, boost speed. Won't quite hit 500 miles an hour in a dive. So when you stick bombs on it, it's even slower. And nor are they very big bombs. Now, 1,000 pounds dropped on a medium target. These are in kilograms, by the way. So take the 250 and multiply it by 2.2 to get to your actual weight in pounds for us Americans. Then you're talking 550 pounds, 250 kilograms. That's a pretty good sized bomb. And a couple of those on a medium-sized ground target could do something. You're going to lose, however, a little bit of speed on this, and it's already a slow aircraft. Nor do I find it a particularly valuable aircraft to dive in because it is quick enough to make it difficult to use. You can. And I may take it back out and do exactly that. But to me, in a lot of ways, this is the aircraft that just can't quite get it done. And when you upgrade the aircraft, say Kaiden Kai, excuse me, knows I have a little bit of to go on this one, about 80,000 points. I don't see a whole lot changing with it. Alright, you get a little more range on your guns. It's not that quick an aircraft. And they don't give you the tech on this. You'd actually have to go and look at the website to Look at the J7W1. It's not a horrible aircraft, but it's not one I just feel the need to say, yeah, by all means, it's great. It's not. It's not fast enough for its tier. It doesn't carry enough of a bomb load to be a decent multi-role. It doesn't have enough altitude to pull a decent intercept. To be decent at intercepting. It's great at killing bombers. It's great at killing ground attack aircraft. It's great at sitting at the bottom of a bowl and fighting other aircraft. But it's not particularly even nimble, which takes away the other thing about it. So it just makes it just kind of... This is one that I think that World of Warplanes really needs to take a look at and see how they can make it better. Okay, there are better aircraft out there. Why the heck should you take this aircraft? And that's one I just simply don't have an answer to. You know, every aircraft has to have a niche, and if you want to be an adherent of an aircraft, then it's got to give you something. Now, this gives you massive front punch. And this is one I would like to hear from you. If I'm wrong, tell me. Listen, guys, I have stated this before. I'll state it again. I am not the master of all things World of Warplanes. If you think I'm playing it wrong, let me know. If you think that I'm missing a trick, let me know. We'll put it right back up here. I'll credit you, and we will take it from there. I'm not real sold on this pilot skills right now. I really think that this should go away, and I should get the marksman too. So I think we're going to go ahead and reset this. I got the silver for that. And I believe this is the way that it should be set up. This thing isn't fast enough or twisty enough to do too much with. You can add when you get to the specialist up here and you get your upgrades, you can do some things. I got a lightweight unit in here, and I got polished skin in here to try to get a little more speed out of it. And then you want to spend some money on your sight. Just because it's the only thing going for the aircraft, in my opinion. I mean, it's a good mid, you know, it can hang in there with attackers. That's an almost 11-second 360 turn time on it. Close. We can look at this real quick here. 10.8. And that's with a lightweight engine in it. You know. So you're not looking at something that makes you absolutely happy that this is, in fact, you don't want to get in a turning contest with tight turning fighters. All right. Spitfire 14 is going to make a dog's lunch out of you. You know, what do you do? And so, you know, there you go. It's just an aircraft that I think they need to take a look at and say, what do we really want this line to be? My suggestion, and it is just a suggestion, it's not my game, it's not my money that goes into developing this game and trying to maximize your profits off your investment here, is to take a look at inventing an interceptor category. Speed, high altitude, sounds like a heavy fighter, right? That's what I think this thing belongs into, is a heavy fighter role, and treated accordingly. All right. If they designed this thing, and I haven't seen the blueprints on it, but if designed this right, they had better had a lot of armor in the front because of what it was going to face. If that's the case, it makes a pretty decent heavy fighter. And then the bombs become superfluous, right? I mean, if you get them, fine, great. But if you're looking at something with an 8,300 foot altitude and high speed and a 10.9, 11 second turn time it'll fit right in. As it sits right now, it's just awkward. My opinion. All right. Thank you for flying the very unfriendly skies with Tironan. I want to thank you so much for being with me. And if you can subscribe and like the video, I'd very much appreciate it. You have a good day, and we will see you tomorrow.